Okay. Good evening. I will acknowledge everybody here in a second, but good evening to all on the NCARC repeater. This is N7GES with the Monday evening NCARC TechNet. We meet each Monday evening here, except for our holiday hiatus, to discuss technical and other amateur radio-related issues. You can always email us at Elmer's, that's Echo Lima, Mike Echo Romeo Sierra, Elmer's at NCARC.net. Contact me directly on the radio. You can catch our reviews of our live stream on YouTube and reviewing each net edition as well, and of course Echolink, which some people are already using for this net, and that's available at W0UPS-R. Tonight is an open forum, so questions like we've been hearing here before the net started, if you were listening, are certainly relevant, and any other things anybody wants to bring to the net. I have several early check-ins, N0KIN, K0VRY, K1DEG, and KE0RXF. Good evening, all. Who else is out here that would like to check in this evening?
Good evening, Kevin. 1 Romeo Delta Charlie, Brian and Loveland.
Good evening, IRC.
This is N0EMP, Greg in Fort Collins with Debbie, K0DBE.
This is Kilo Zero Papa Romeo Bravo, Phil in Loveland, with Kilo Zero Lima Alpha Oscar Luann.
This is Whiskey Zero Alpha Sierra Papa, W0ASP, Terry in Berthoud.
Whiskey 3 Hotel Tango Lima, Rich and Elizabeth.
Kilo Alpha 6 Echo Tango Echo, KA6 ETE, Jim in Loveland.
Whiskey 7 Kilo Romeo Uniform, Rick and Drake.
Alpha Echo Zero Golf Mike, George and Berthoud.
Good evening, Kevin. This is Whiskey Zero, Delta Delta Zulu, Dave and Greeley.
Okay. Goodness gracious, we got a bunch there. W0DDZ, AE0GM. George, is that a new call? Changed call?
Yes, it's a brand new call. Just got it from the FCC the other day.
That previously KD0CX?
Previously KB0SCX, which nobody could ever get right, and people always thought it was sex.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on the new call, and glad to have you in here. And let's see, going back, W7KRU, KA6ETE, W3HTL, W0ASP, K0LAO, K0PRB, K0DBE, N0EMP. We had a few partial calls, IRC. We had some doubles there, so I got IRC and RDC, I think. So a couple of those I need to finish confirming there.
Confirm November 1, Romeo Delta Charlie.
Confirm K7IRC, Highlands Ranch, Colorado.
Okay. Thank you. K7IRC and N1RDC. What's the name and location there, sir?
Sorry about that. This is Ryan in Loveland.
Okay, is that a changed call also, or am I just remembering wrong?
It's been 2 or 3 weeks, something like that, but fairly new.
Okay, very good, Ryan. Thank you. All right, so who else do we have either that I didn't get or that other additional check-ins?
Oscar Romeo, Mike, Timberline Church.
Okay. Oscar Romeo, Mike, Timberland Church. Come again with your whole call there. Missed most of it.
Kilo Echo 0, Sierra Oscar Romeo.
Okay, got it that time, Mike. I don't know what happened, but it just didn't come through. KE0SOR. Thank you. Others, please?
Alpha Echo 0, Charlie Foxtrot, Bed, 4 Hogs.
Kilo Delta 0, Whiskey, Bravo Charlie, Pete, Fort Collins.
Okay. Recognizing KD0WBC. Good evening, Pete. And Ben, AE0CF. Thank you. Anybody else?
Whiskey Charlie.
Okay, we got a station trying to check in. The signal's not holding the repeater. I got a Whiskey 5, but that's all. Do you have a way of getting a bit more power or something there and try again?
Kilo Delta 0, Whiskey Charlie Romeo, Russell and Highlands Ranch.
Okay, I got WB0WCR, Russell, thank you. I thought I heard a W5 call as well. Was there another station trying to get in? Okay, perhaps not. And Russell, did I get your call correct?
Yeah, that was Kilo Delta 0, Whiskey Charlie Romeo.
Okay, thank you. I did not get it correct. KD0 WCR. Thank you. All right. People are welcome to check in later on as they wish. Check-ins are here just for checking to see who is around and getting a little list formed, but no checkout is required, and I'll always take later check-ins as well. All right, so this is an open forum topic this evening, so anybody have questions or topic suggestions for this evening? Okay, we had kind of an interesting topic going on right at the beginning before net started, and that was about grounding, especially older vehicles. VRY, Anna, do you have any additional questions on that?
It would be lovely if it could be the topic of tonight, but I'm not used to being put on the spot. My mind is kind of going blank. K0 VRY.
Okay, well, let me ask you to help you out a little bit. What sort of issues are you having with the grounding? Are you just experiencing noise? Or are you having devices that are failing to operate? What sort of issues are you dealing with there?
Well, a turn signal that doesn't blink. When the turn signals are on, the radio, the just regular FM radio, blinks in time with the turn signal. So I'm thinking that's a grounding issue. I have not had the truck running very much, especially not when the vehicle has been operating. So it's kind of too soon to tell on my specific case, but I was just wondering what people would suggest. K0 VRY.
Okay. Well, on those specific symptoms, I certainly can't. I'm not a good one to make suggestions. However, we were talking earlier about improving grounding, and we've talked about this before, and it's probably not a bad thing to at least bring up some major points again, which are, and people can set me straight if I've missed something. Sometimes the older, our modern cars are often not a lot of metal in them, and so car bodies can be a problem. But any car, and especially, I suppose, older cars, are probably developing some corrosion in joints and stuff like that. So grounding certainly could be improved, and even without that, as was suggested earlier, by wiring across hinges and things like that to make sure that there's a good connection between all of those things. Anybody else want to add anything, especially perhaps relevant to dealing with an older car that is probably in need of some TLC? Surely I didn't cover it that well. KIN, anything additional you might add to all that?
This is K1DEG. I'll speak for him because he's in the living room stuck on the TV. Just make sure you ground everything. I'd ground the bed, the body, the panels. Just ground it.
Okay, and that would be by just adding a wire or a ground strap, something heavy, back to where?
Well, you normally go from the frame up to each body panel. The body of the truck has got bushings between the frame and the body. So adding extras there. Same thing with the bed. There's bushings between the two. Add more wires there, and then that's about it. Make sure your wire that's coming from the battery is going down to the frame, and that connection is good because that's where your ground comes from. K1DEG.
W0ASP with a comment.
Okay, thank you. ASP, go ahead.
This as a reminder in all these situations, when these grounds are grounding radio frequency energy, remember that they have a length to them, and that the impedance of any piece of wire with a length to it is a function of its length and the frequency you're using. So if you're a quarter wavelength, you've entirely changed your impedance. One of the principles of good printed circuit board design is to have multiple connections to your ground plane that have different physical lengths to them, so that you don't get a single dominant length to ground for any specific frequency, because that may in fact resonate and not give you a ground at all. So multiple different wavelength connections to the body of the vehicle, to the radio, is desirable. W0ASB, back to net.
Okay, now that is one makes good sense, but that I had not heard before. And I would assume that by saying by different lengths, you're talking. Are you talking specifically from the radio, or are you talking various grounds in the whole structure of the car itself that need to be of different lengths?
Well, I'm not really an expert on vehicle installations, but for example, if your only ground connection was, say you have a mag mount antenna which is only inductively coupled to the vehicle, and then your only other connection is the wire back to the battery, remember that this wire has a length to it which is many wavelengths at the frequencies we're using here, and so it will show a frequency-dependent response as to the impedance that the RF sees with regard to the vehicle. Now, if you were to mount the case of the radio to the metal chassis of the body, well, there's a different and more direct connection to the ground plane.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification there. And we had another station wanting to add something, I believe. Come again, please.
This is KE0CBT, Andrew and Nobo. I just was listening a bit, and I just wanted to let you guys know I was here.
Okay, Andrew, tell me again the call. I didn't quite catch it.
Kilo Echo Charlie Bravo Tango. Kilo Echo 0 Charlie Bravo Tango.
Okay, thank you, sir. We got you in there, and thank you for being there. And please feel free to jump in at any point here. That's great. Okay, any other comments on this particular topic? We've had some interesting additional information here that I had not heard before, but which makes good sense, and that is to make sure that any ground you have is better with multiple lengths, so that, such as direct to the battery with a wire and through the ground, through the metal chassis, to give you different lengths of ground for avoiding any RF friendly wavelengths there. Any other comments on this particular whole grounding topic here?
Yes, it's comment about making these connections.
Okay, we had a double. CF, go ahead, please.
Just wanted to make sure that any of these connections you want to, when you at the general idea, is make sure that they don't get wet, and because these drill points are, when you try to connect these things, if you're using a hole and bolt, it is a stress to the metal and will likely rust, and you can make sure that it doesn't rust by making sure that you have a good connection and just don't get wet. Hopefully it will last longer. 80CF.
Okay. Very good, thank you. The other station, there was another station at the same time.
Yeah, W7KRU.
Okay, KRU, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wondering if it couldn't possibly be a power problem with the power. Also, running too small to gauge a wire or bad connection. She's transmitting and the lights are dimming. Maybe trying to pull too much power from a smaller gauge wire or bad connection. That'd be possible.
E0VRY, you don't have a radio in there yet, is that correct, or do you?
I do have a radio in there, and the wire is 10 gauge, so I don't think that it's too small of a gauge of wire. It's Anderson power poles. I did the exact same wiring setup as I did in the Subaru, and it was still, when I did a couple of radio checks with it, people said I was quieter, and I am not really. It hasn't been on a meter yet, so it could be standing wave ratio, it could be ground issues, it could be a lot of things. It was my FM radio that was showing some interesting symptoms when I would run the turn signals, but I have not had the ham radio on when I have been driving the truck just yet. So that's a different issue entirely.
Okay, very good. I think probably what KRU was talking about was not necessarily power to the radio, but a power, an overall power problem, perhaps. So certainly that's something to check too. If you've got something that in the car that's totally disrupting something else, it could be certainly more than just grounding, and I think that's probably where you're going with that. Is that right? Let me see. Rick.
Yeah, either or. I mean, I didn't know she was transmitting, and that was making her FM radio dim, which maybe would be on the radio side if that was the case. Otherwise, it could be dirty ground or positive battery post connections or whatever. Yeah, I think it can go either way. I know grounds do some funny stuff, that's for sure, but you might want to check both of them.
Okay. Well, thank you. This is N7GES, and this is the TechNet. Yeah, and yeah, certainly I would make sure that your actual voltage and your power, a couple of things I would say, make sure your voltage is stable as well, and so that you're, if something is actually robbing the power from everything else, then you certainly need to check that. And also, checking how loud you sound between two different radios doesn't necessarily say anything about your SWR. We've talked about this just a little bit before, and I thought I'd just emphasize it again. Your signal strength and your volume or your modulation really are two different things altogether. Your signal strength is going to contribute to how noisy or quiet your signal is. The station that was first trying to check in that I said wasn't making the repeater, that's a signal strength issue, not because he was transmitting a low signal, but because where he was located could have been a combination of location, obstructions, and terrain and everything else. But that's a signal strength issue, as opposed to somebody that is some signal that is very, very quiet, and you have to turn up the volume to hear it. That's a good, strong signal, but it's quiet or low modulation, and those are two very, very different issues. So don't confuse them. If somebody tells you you're quiet, don't bump the power up, because that doesn't make any difference. Let me reset. And also, if it's a mobile radio, it very likely could have a mic gain setting. And if you have two identical mobile radios, they could be set differently. And no two radios are absolutely identical. So all of those things are things to be aware of as far as how you sound or the comments you get back about how you sound. But it is important to understand the differences between you're very soft, I can barely hear you, I have to crank the volume, or your signal is scratchy and I can't hear you over the noise. So do check your SWR, of course. Do check your grounding. But if you're actually softer on one radio and than another, and the two are the same, there's still things that are different. I was telling you the other night about Baofangs, and no two of those are usually ever the same. Speaker mic and built-in mics are never the same. So there's all kinds of things that could make two radios sound very different from each other. So just some points to be aware of there. Okay, other comments from anybody on this? And if not, we can switch to other topics, because this is open topic.
K7 IRC.
IRC, good evening. Go ahead.
Good evening. The handle's Bill in Highlands Ranch, as I said before, and I think it was on this TechNet in the past. I've heard someone talk about having some expertise in the area of sniffing out noise sources using various techniques, and I'm interested and have need of getting some more information on that. And if anybody knows who that is, we could talk offline, or if he had something he wanted to share. I'm interested specifically at this moment in being able to sniff out like local in the shack noisy little gizmos, like if there was a magnetic noise pickup, you could move around like a wand and find noise peaks up when you get close to it, kind of thing. So anybody who had help on that I would be appreciated in maybe some discussion or whatever. K7 IRC.
K0CBT. Well, spectrum analyzer is the best thing for that, but it's not a little gadget, unfortunately. I have one, and I've used it for that purpose as well. It's an Instatech. It's worth having. K060. Back to that.
W0LEB.
Okay, so we have a couple of different topics going. CBT recommending a spectrum analyzer. LAV, good evening, and go ahead.
Yeah, if you must do a spectrum analyzer, the AirSpy functioned very well from about 25 megahertz to roughly 2 gigahertz and such. It only cost $200 instead of $2,000 or more. However, your best friend in sleuthing RF noise is probably a battery-operated portable radio tuned to an unoccupied station in the AM band, 550 to 1.7 megahertz, that is 550 kilohertz to 1.7 megahertz, and start walking around. That's honestly, for the amateur, your absolute best friend. Battery-operated portable radio, W0LEB.
Question?
Question?
K7IRC again. Okay, yeah, and I've heard that before. Would that be just using the built-in loop antenna in the little battery-powered AM radio, or are there some other choices for antenna for something like that? I'm probably not into purchasing spectrum analyzer. Even the $200 model at this point, I'm looking for something that might be a little simpler, like the AM radio sounds. And I've got in mind picking one up. I don't happen to have a battery-powered one, so that's kind of on my list of I better get one of those kind of things. What about the antenna? Just using the built-in one, or is there a little auxiliary probe kind of antenna you could make for doing that, or what do you suggest?
Yes. When you shop for the radio, oops, hang on. Gotta turn something down on the stove here, boiling over. I hope I kept it in there. When you shop for a little battery-operated portable radio, be sure it has an option of attaching an external antenna. It'll probably be an 1/8-inch funnel plug or something similar, but be sure it has that option. For antennas, you can really use a rubber duck. I hate to say that, but as a don't have to spend any money. You've already got one on the HT. Use the rubber duck. Personally, for close-in sleuthing, I like to use a magnetic loop. Something that's maybe 3 inches in diameter. You bend it around in a loop, short the center conductor to the braid at the termination of the loop, and finally terminate that into a BNC or connector of your choice. That makes a wonderful close-in probe.
W3HTL?
Good evening, HTL.
Hi there. Are you trying to identify electronics or components within your house that are causing noise for your radio?
Trying to locate any kind of noise source. Typically, I know they come from little power supply bricks, whatever you call them. But a lot of times they come from places you don't anticipate. Some LED light fixtures have them. I've gone through the process of turning stuff off, and I'm trying to now go a little bit past that and see if I can maybe eliminate or locate and then eliminate stuff that is in that category of noise producing that would be picked up by my HF radio or otherwise. And I would like maybe a little more detail from, can't remember the call, station before, who talked about the antenna, the loop, about construction of that. You said about 3-inch diameter, made out of coax, just shorted at one end. The center conductor to the shield shorted at one end and has just formed into a loop. Could you give me more detail on what you would actually do for that?
Yeah, I think you got it. I use semi-rigid, either 085 or 141, but you don't know what that is, so just use RG58. Give me, I won't get back to you until tomorrow, but give me an email, just my call at ARRL.net, W0LEV, that's Lima Echo Victor, at ARRL.net. And I should also comment, a friend of mine has authored a couple of books that ARRL sells. One is really, really good. It's a pocket edition, and it'll give all kinds of hints. Just look for RFI in the ARRL store. It's not expensive. I think it's $15 or $10 or something like that. It's a gold mine. W0LEV.
Give me your call again, or your email. I got the ARRL.net part, but the first part I missed.
Yeah, just my call.
Dave, we are breaking up, so we missed the email, and we also missed a book title that you said to search for. If you can try all of that again.
Yeah, let me get into the radio room and off the 7.5 link. Hang on.
HTL, if I could jump in real quick.
I was just headed back for you. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a direction you want to head, but I just wanted to give you kind of the path that I went down. I brought in my boat battery, connected my radio to that so that I could eliminate any kind of HF noise from the power source, and then I started shutting off circuit breakers one by one to try to identify if there was a noise coming from a certain breaker, and then I could kind of iron that down to certain devices. So just wanted to throw that out there, but you might have already tried that. W3HTL.
HTL, I have tried that. Thank you very much. It is helpful. I'm kind of trying to go to the next level, so I'll stand by for the email of the other station.
Yeah, I'm back on a real radio. Am I making it okay?
Hey, you're good now.
Yeah, I heard the dog.
Okay, that's smooch. It's a little pocket book. It's Radio Frequency Interference RFI Pocket Guide. RFI Pocket Guide. Two authors, Ken Wyatt, W6TTY, and Michael Gruber, who is the RFI consultant for ARRL, W1MG. But RFI Pocket Guide. Wealth of information in there. And my call, W0LEV, W0 Whiskey 0 Lima Echo Victor, or Whiskey 0 Lethal Electrical Voltages at ARRL.net.
Copy that. Thank you very much. I will send you an email, and whatever you send me will, I'm sure, be helpful, because I'm kind of just stepping it up here a little bit. I don't have bad noise problems, so I'm not in dire straits, so to speak, but I'm trying to refine it a bit. So thank you for that, and I'll get back to you via email, K7IRC.
Alrighty, okay. You run into a great big nasty problem. I'll help you through it with Spectrum Analyzer or whatever. W0LEV. Go ahead, Kevin.
Okay, thank you, Dave. This is N7GES with the NCARC TechNet. Bill, what? Just for curiosity, what frequencies are you having difficulties on, or band, or whatever?
This K7IRC, Bill. Actually, I'm not having major difficulties. I have eliminated some not really bad noise sources, but by doing some of stuff that's been suggested. It's mainly HF where I'm dealing with, but I've gotten it to a level where I'd like to say, can I get it better? I'm not having real difficulties. In fact, I'm kind of pleased with my noise level. So it's kind of like maybe one of those over-the-top issues where I'm trying to refine or squeeze out the last bit of juice out of it. And if I can make any improvement by doing things, I would be pleased, even if it isn't even 2 S units or 1 S unit improvement. A little bit is what I'm looking for at this point. So thanks for your help. And I got a call for dinner, so I'm going to step out and probably listen on the phone, K7IRC.
Okay. Very good. Enjoy your dinner, and thanks for adding your questions to the topic pool here. All right. Any other comments on this topic, and or other questions that people have?
CF?
CF, go ahead, Ben.
I was just wondering, actually something similar. I found that my video card for my computer seems to be generating UHF noise, or at least something that I can pick up on UHF, which would affect like scanning and stuff like that. Just wondering if anyone has done anything about this kind of thing.
ASP?
ASP, go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, I've done quite a bit of sleuthing of RF noise from HF through VHF. The little loop antenna that Dave W0LEV recommended is one of my key tools. I have one that's about 1 inch in diameter, made from a 6-inch long piece of reformable coax, and yeah, you strip the end off and glue or solder the center conductor to the shield at the connector, and it makes a nice little loop antenna. But particularly for HF frequencies, it is only effective when you get within a few inches of the source. For VHF, it's a little bit better. My favorite receiver for doing all this is the battery-powered ICOM ICR10 that was recommended to me by someone here on the TechNet. I think it might have been Radio Dan. But the ICR10 and its predecessor and R20, and now, if you have a whole lot of money, the R30, is a very good radio. It's all band, all mode, and that's very important, I found, to figuring out, getting the fingerprint of the RF interferer. You have to be able to remember you need to chase the source that you're hearing on your radio, not whatever your little portable system picks up. W0ASP, back to net.
Okay. Now, what can you do about a graphics card?
Yeah, CF, I just wanted to, just clarify a bit. I can set my radio right next to my computer. It doesn't have to be that close. And I know it's the video card or something related to it, because I can move my window around on the monitor, and it would change the noise that I hear on the radio.
Yeah, and the next diagnostic I would take is to unplug the video cable without changing anything else and see if the noise goes away. Something has to be the antenna, and I'm suspicious that it's the cable.
Are you using a laptop or a desktop, Ben?
Yeah, this would be a desktop actually. So yeah, maybe one of my cables are bad. I don't know. I thought I had 2 DVI shielded cables, but it also might be the monitor that's poorly shielded. Have to look into that.
EMP.
Yeah, go ahead, EMP.
Yeah, computers in general put out a lot of RF in the UHF range. The USB 2 bus runs at about 480 megahertz, so it puts out a lot of RF all over the 400 megahertz band. And then the video signals are the same as far as a lot of noise there. I have a scanner that I keep here in the shack, and that I have all the local repeaters on, and it would lock up when I was using one particular desktop. And what I had to do was run some coax up into the attic and put the antenna for that scanner up in the attic away from the shack just to get it away from that computer. That can ultimately be easier and less expensive than trying to shield all your cables and monitors and everything else in 0 EMP.
Yeah, I think I probably will have to relocate the antenna maybe farther away from your computer or something like that. All right, AE0CF, back to net.
Thank you, folks. I appreciate both of you. And yeah, computers and anything with a processor chip, and almost anything electronic in general, but especially computers, can create a lot of problems. They'll even go into the microphone and create problems with transmit, or there's all kinds of places. But yeah, the antenna definitely needs to be away from it if you can. All right. Other comments or questions on this topic or others?
DDZ.
DDZ, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, I have one that came in via email. It says, I am currently monitoring the 447-275. I am not a ham, so I can't transmit. I want to get my ham license, but I haven't been able to understand the study book. It's been a while since I've studied. I was wondering if you could give me some guidance. Hopefully somebody here can give some guidance. I guess I will start by saying we do offer a ham course. I don't think that one has been scheduled as of yet, but we at NCARC definitely do offer a course every so often, and if you keep in touch on our webpage, ncarc.net, there will be notification of that coming up. But hopefully some of the other guys here have some study recommendations.
K0CBT. Personally, I got my technician's license using Ham Test Online. It was cheaper than the book that I bought, pretty much, and it uses heuristic, so if you miss a question, it periodically repeats the question to kind of get it into your head. And I hadn't studied for my test at all. I started doing Ham Test Online at 4 a.m., finished at 9, and then took my my test at 10, and I got 100%.
Wow. Wow. Okay. I'm glad for you. That's terrific. I don't think that would even work for me, but hey, there you go. I did use SamTest Online too, and I liked it very much because, as he said, you get study material. Not as thoroughly as the book, but you do get study material which you can read. You get questions, and you get explanations to the answers, and you get repeated questions when you miss them, and you move up slowly. So it was a source that I enjoyed very much, and when I upgraded from general to extra, I used that exclusively. One reason was because it was very easy to get at it, and yeah, it wasn't expensive. I had a little trouble with the math, but I have trouble with math in general, and also since I use a screen reader, I had to get I had a little trouble with the screen reader interpreting the math, but that won't affect probably won't affect most people much at all nowadays, since things have been upgraded a bunch too. And if you just read your screen normally, it won't make any difference to you. You'll see it. So yeah, I can go with that. Other suggestions?
EMP.
EMP, go.
Yeah, I personally, and I don't have any affiliation with these folks or anything like that, or stand to profit from them in any way, but I really like hamradioschool.com. They have a couple of books, one for the tech license and one for general. I used both of those books. My wife used both of those books. I like the level they're written at and the way they clarify everything, and I believe that they have a link in their books to some free online testing. The other thing is, if the person, if you're stuck on one particular topic or one particular thing that you just don't get, you can get a hold of us at elmers@ncarc.net. Is that correct, Kevin? But we have an Elmers link on our website, and one of us would be happy to sit down with you if you're local, or talk to you on the phone or something, if there's just one particular topic area that you're stuck on, and 0 EMP.
DDZ.
Is elmers@ncarc.net. And, you know, even if you're not local, we can certainly email back and forth. And a lot, you know, some of us have free long-distance calling, but that's, you know, but yes, absolutely. One of the best things is, well, Elmering is the term we used years ago for people that help other hams or prospective hams. You got an Elmer that helped and taught you and gave you experience, and that's where the term came from. That's why we're using that term here. That's one of the things that we're trying to do for people is help them with various aspects of their study and then their continued radio operation afterwards. So yes, two good suggestions there. Thank you, Greg. Others, please. Other suggestions for this in this situation? Study helps.
DDZ.
Okay, we had a double. I did catch DDZ, so I'll let you go first.
I just quickly, I'm sorry, Greg, I missed what the name of the book was that you said. Could you please repeat that once?
They're on a website, hamradioschool.com. They were also being sold at Ham Radio Outlet in Denver. That's where I picked mine up. But they're shown on hamradioschool.com.
Thank you for that. That's all I had, Kevin. Back to net. W0DDZ.
Okay, very good. Any other station, please?
This is George, AE0GM.
GM, go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to recommend the QRZ practice exams. I found they were very helpful. And again, they would give you they would give you the right, they would make you pick the right answer before you could get away from a question. Another resource, I think a class is very helpful. The Longmont Radio Club, LARC, L-A-R-C, is just started or is just about to start a technician's class. And the last point is there's a guy, Dave Kessler, who used to live around here and was in the Boulder Club for a long time, has a YouTube channel, and he does YouTube videos to study the test material. He uses the ARRL manuals as reference. And his name is Dave Kessler, C-A-S-L-E-R. AE0GM back to net.
Okay. Thank you very much, George. This is N7GES in the TechNet. Any other suggestions here? We had a lot of good ones. Oops, there was a double. Come again?
W0ASP.
Okay, sorry about that, Terry. Go ahead.
Yeah, for the caller from the internet listening to this, I think they might want to decide how they best learn and whether an online interactive program is best for them, or I might suggest actually meeting with one of the radio amateurs in the area and actually seeing the equipment and getting on the air and getting some one-on-one training and doing a little third-party traffic. That might help with their learning and their inspiration and learning of proper procedures, which isn't always taught in the license manual. W0ASP back to net.
Good point. Thank you. And that may be, that was something I had intended to mention in the Elmer's portion of my discussion, which was it is a way of getting one-on-one assistance, and that's what Elmering really was intended to be, is one-on-one. So if you're not local, you can certainly use our email, Elmer's email, but you'll also benefit a lot from getting in touch with amateurs in your area. Okay, we don't know if this person is local or not. Just in the event that anybody is listening who is not local, what's the best way of locating amateurs in your area if you're not yet on the radio? and involved with a particular amateur community.
DDZ.
DDZ, go.
From the sounds of the email, it definitely sounds like he is local. But I would say he did a great job on locating us. He said he was listening on the 447-275. So I would also, I mean, he's already got step one of listening and hearing us out here doing our thing, and emailing us and finding the clubs is a great first step and way to reach out to us. And for those who are not local and may end up hearing this on our YouTube page, then yeah, that's a good way to start, is by tuning in and listening and shooting out an email. W0DDZ back to net.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And there are probably other radio clubs that have YouTube channels as well, and that might be a resource. If you look under amateur radio clubs on Google, you'll find all kinds of things, and you may find local references that way as well. So, you know, all of those options are open to you, and it was a good question. I'm glad you asked the question and brought these topics out, because that could be of help to others as well. Very good. Other contributions here?
GM?
GM?
Not to belabor the bleeding obvious, but the ARRL is a good resource. Will get you to your local clubs. Publishes good materials. Is worth contacting.
Yeah, we should have all probably mentioned that in the very beginning, but we didn't. So yes, they are there for a reason, and certainly they would be one to have some info to that degree that can certainly get you started. So yeah, thank you, George. Appreciate it. Other comments on this topic before we perhaps move along or wind down, whichever the case may be?
W0ASP with a different topic.
Okay, go ahead, Terry.
Well, I had emphasis on the past tense, one of these Titera TH9800 FM mobile rigs as my base unit. And mysteriously, while I was in Puerto Rico before Christmas, the thing died. The transmitter stopped working. And it definitely did not happen while it was being used in transmit mode, because I wasn't here. But I did leave it powered on for my vacation or my work trip. I was wondering if anybody had any experience with this unit and those kinds of failures.
Okay. So the rig was powered on while you were gone, and just in receive mode, and then when you came back, it just will not transmit. Is that correct?
That is correct. I've tested the antenna with another. In fact, I'm using the same antenna now on my Yaesu 857. So the antenna's fine, the unit is bad.
Okay. Does it appear to go into transmit mode but just not sending any signal? Or is it like not even switching to transmit mode?
Oh, it tries to transmit, and I suspect the issue is the final amplifier. But I'm actually interested in people's experiences to reliability of this kind of unit because you know, I've only had it for a couple of years.
Okay. Anybody make some comments? I don't think that rig has been a particular model that's been a problem for anybody. That's the TH9800. That is TYT. Is that correct?
Yeah, roger that, Kevin. Yeah, it's the clone of the Yaesu model of the same number.
Okay. Anybody had any experience either way with those?
PRV.
PRB, go.
I do have 3 of those same units. The only problem I've experienced so far is a problem with the display on one of my units, but it's just a loose connection. I'm going to get in there and work on that. But the question for you, Terry, is to whether when you transmit, does it display a bar graph, and is it acting like it should transmit and just giving you low or no output?
Well, Phil, I would have to test that. I just moved this radio onto the antenna. I'll have to take that rig off and do a little bit more investigation. I do know that I've notoriously had the problem that the microphone level on that rig was low, and I've very often had to clean the RJ11 connector that goes into the side of it, the microphone connector, because my audio would mysteriously vanish using that rig.
Understood. Yes, I've had that same issue and have had to replace the RJ12 connectors, which did resolve my issues. So I'm curious as to whether when you key it, the push to talk, whether or not you're seeing a full bar graph on your display saying, "Hey, I'm transmitting," and it's just not going out, etc. Very interesting. It would be curious to try a different microphone to see if that makes a difference, or just a different faceplate, because those are detachable. You may want to check the connection to the faceplate as well. But so if you are getting a full bar graph, if it looks like it's trying to put out a full signal and it's just not, I would start there before I start looking at the finals.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I can hook this up to a load and a power meter and see if there's anything actually coming out of it, and do a little bit more investigation. I just came back and I said, oh, that doesn't work, so I just moved over to this radio.
All right, understood. Yeah, give that a go, and if you run into any other issues or questions, send me an email, K0PRB.
Thank you kindly, Phil. W0ASP, back to net.
have an example of Elmering right there. Thank you. Yeah, anybody else had any trouble with their 9800s? I don't believe I've heard of anything certainly widespread. But certainly, you know, anything is going to fail. But anybody else heard of any particular difficulties, especially in this area? And in this problem with certainly with transmitting just going down? I kind of didn't think so. Yeah, I would proceed on what Phil told you. See if the display is showing you transmit and power. See what's coming out of the radio. Check your connectors, both on the mic and the faceplate, and then see what we have from there. And then you can determine further. But I don't believe that we've had a lot of reports of difficulties with any of those rigs. So there you go. Hope that kind of helps your answer there. Okay, any other questions before we look at closing here? All right then, it's my turn to ask a question. For next week, I was looking at either one of two topics: the new FT8 mode, or specific help with programming particular models of radios, specific models of radios. Anybody with comments on which topic they might prefer for next week? Because if there's a preference, then I need to go one step further and ask another question.
DDZ will vote for radio programming.
I'll second.
Okay, that's one vote for radio programming. Anybody else? Either way?
Yes, Kevin, K0PRB. I will second that vote.
AE0GM, I'd like to, ICOM 7100 programming.
Okay, anybody else voting either topic, and then I will go back and ask which radios.
Can you repeat the topics, please?
Sure thing. I had two suggestions for next week. The new the new FT8 modes, which is a digital HF mode, or radio programming and specific radio models. I've got about three votes for radios. Any other, if anybody else feels strongly, let me ask this. I've had three votes for radio programming now. I've had suggestion of the IC7100. What other radio models, especially you folks that have voted for radios, are you concerned specifically with?
MD380.
TYTMD 380. Dave, you had suggested radios, any particular model you were looking at?
I don't know, I may get some hate for it, but I think we should cover the UV5R because it is so difficult to program on its face, and it's a pretty popular radio. W0DDZ.
PRV.
I was just headed for you, Phil. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess it begs a little more information, but are we talking about programming via laptop or just in general, whether it's manual or laptop? And the reason I ask that question is because they're definitely two different things. There may be some questions on some models about how to use the laptop to program the radio, specific cables, etc. And what Dave mentions, manually programming the UV5R, Baofeng, of course. And I know you know the Baofeng very well, Kevin. I know the Baofeng. So programming that is not a problem manually in a sense. So, I mean, the topic is definitely worthwhile because it can go both ways, manual or laptop programming.
And I meant to mention that as I would be open to both matters, manual programming and with chirp. I know we could talk about general chirp and I can't remember the other one right offhand, but people will know what I'm talking about. Anyway, it wouldn't hurt to go through those general purpose softwares, but what I'd really like to try to do next week, because the question that was suggested to me was specific models of radios. How do you handle them, either front panel or by software? So let's leave it that way. Any other models of radios anybody would like to ask questions about next week?
ETE.
TE?
Yeah, I just had a suggestion for actually two models. I know personally I don't need help. I own both of them. I've had for a while, but with Yaesu just still having their big mega sale on the FTM 400 and the FT2 DR. I know a lot of people upgraded radios, and a lot of people have purchased them locally, and that over the past month and a half, I know HRO is on a 2 to 3 month back order, or Yaesu is, for their radios. So I know there's a lot of people that upgraded to them that will have a lot of questions on how to program them and use them.
Okay, so let me just check. That was the FTM 400 and the FT2 VR. Do I have that correct?
DR, the Delta Romeo, their HT with APRS and full touchscreen.
Okay, and are you familiar with both of those?
Yes, I am. I actually bought one of the first FT2s that came out, and I've had the FTM 400, the XDR, since that one came out a couple years ago.
Okay, I thank you, because it'll be good to also be able to know where to go for assistance with these. Thank you. Any other radio models specifically? Okay. You who asked about the MD380, what sort of information are you looking for at this point? The general preparing a plug, a code plug, and getting it in and out of the radio, or other things?
K0CBT. Well, okay. Let's assume that you've gotten the code plug for Rocky Mountain ham. DMR is kind of complicated because there's talk groups and other stuff, and it's just been pretty hard to figure out really how to use it to get people on the radio. I don't know if it's just a matter of that there aren't that many people using DMR or not, but it definitely has distinct advantages technically. But so let's assume that you've gotten the code plug from RM Ham and you're just trying to figure out what to do with the radio next. This is KE0CBT.
PRB.
Okay. Yeah, before PRB, I'll get to you in a second. Another topic that was suggested was DMR, and it might be well to cover that at that point, because we really are dealing with a whole nother set of things when we get into actually managing a code plug and using a DMR radio. I didn't know if you had specific radio questions on particular operations, but it sounds like that might be better covered in a separate topic covering DMR and using it. So, and that was on my list of things here in the next in future topics. PRB.
Yes, Kevin. I just wanted to confirm that as well. As you know, I know you have a TYT 2017. I do as well, and they're both DMR, and I haven't had a chance to do anything with that. So I might be in that same ballpark where trying to understand code plugs, getting them going, and then what to do afterwards. So that is definitely a topic that needs to be discussed. I think it's very important.
Well, that was some other feedback I got from folks. So I'm certainly glad to keep that on the order. So let's see. For next week, George, the IC7100. What sorts of things are you looking for assistance with there?
Programming it with the computer.
Okay. Do we have any 7100 folks on here at this point? Well, I will some checking for people then, and we'll go ahead from there. So it sounds like then for next week, we're looking at some discussion of the ICOM 7100. We're going to hold the MD380 for a bit later. The Baofeng and the Yaesu models, a couple of the new Yaesu models. The Yaesu FTM400 and the FT2DR. So I think that will make plenty of stuff, and maybe that's a bit too many radios to cover, but we'll do what we can, and we'll extend the topic if we need to. but some very specific items to try to provide some help with next week. So do tune in, and glad to have you. I'm going to wrap this up for this evening because we've already been going a good hour and we've had a full hour. But thank you all very much for your comments. And we've been going an hour and a half. Thanks very much for your comments and questions and assistance. If you have comments about this net, or questions about the net, or questions you'd like the net to propose, please email us at elmers@ncarc.net. And if you're watching via YouTube, you can leave comments as well, and those will eventually get back to us. We're glad to do what we can. We'll plan on being here next week with discussion of specific radio models and programming and questions regarding those. Thank you very much, and 73s to all. And the repeater is now open for normal use. Good evening to all. N7GES.
This presentation was brought to you by the Northern Colorado Amateur Radio Club. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.